Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. Inshallah, all of you are in the best of health and iman and you're all doing fine. So, brothers and sisters, you're tuning into the first episode of Muslim Youth Movement Advice. And inshallah, I want to keep this going on a regular basis, inshallah, because I've seen the kind of need that the Muslim youth have, for something like this and for more things like this. So, inshallah, I thought I need to be able to, make regular stuff for you guys, inshallah, so that everyone can benefit. And of course, by me doing this, I will also benefit, you guys will benefit, everyone benefits, smiles all around, inshallah. So, we got an email from a sister, and she basically emails in and she expresses that before, basically, back in her old days, she wasn't practicing, right? And she was in a haram relationship, and of course, being in a haram relationship, she did commit zina, astaghfirullah, and she engaged in all sorts of bad things in the past because of her haram relationship. Now, what she basically says is that she found Allah. Let's just say it like that. She left her haram relationship. She stopped doing those bad things that she used to do. She stopped all of the zina. She stopped all of that. And she basically, worked towards bettering herself. She started reading Islamic books, watching YouTube videos online, obviously Islamic ones. And she started to better her character in a more Islamic perspective and a more Islamic light. Now, what she basically expresses in her email is that basically everything is coming back to her. She's starting to feel an emptiness in her heart. And from what I get from her email is that it's like she slightly misses her past. Don't get me wrong, like in the email she makes it very clear that I'm not going to go back to that. In no way do I want to go back to it. Like that's my past, that's done and dusted. But she expresses that she feels like an emptiness in her heart. She's, just dealing with that. And she feels like a part of her is missing. And that part was her ex. That's basically how she feels now. Of course, this is where, inshallah, I'm going to be giving advice to her and anyone else that can also benefit, inshallah. But I'm going to speak directly to you, sister, inshallah. Obviously, assalamu alaikum, inshallah, you're well, inshallah, you're in the best of health and iman. Sister, obviously, that's what I got from your email. But what I would say to you is that the only reason that you're feeling this emptiness is because you don't fully understand your previous relationship. You see, I could sit here and I could say, sister, make a better connection with Allah. Read the Qur'an. Of course, do those things, alhamdulillah. But that's not all I'm going to tell you to do. What I'm actually going to tell you to do, and we're going to do this together, is we're going to analyze your previous relationship. Now, of course, it was a haram relationship. You weren't married to the guy. Let me just tell you about how these relationships work in a man's mind. So in your boyfriend's mind, let's say. You see, men have this urge since they hit puberty that basically their hormones just go up. Let's just say it like that. They become very active and they need to, sometimes they start to get these sexual urges that they just need to get rid of. Now, what can happen as a result of these sexual urges is that they start going to clubs, they start going to all of these different places just to, fulfill these urges and just to, feel a bit better. Because, to be honest with you, these urges, if you don't fulfill them, they start to really bug you. So what a lot of men do is they get in relationships with girls. Now, generally, these men don't take these relationships seriously. I mean, even if, subhanAllah, you've had a relationship with a girl for a long time, the fact that the guy hasn't married her shows that he does not take his relationship fully seriously and that he does not want to take it to that full length. Marriage is actually a sign that someone wants to be with you. Marriage is a sign, that's why so many men get happy, girls get happy when they get proposed to, because it shows that someone wants to spend the rest of their life with you in a contract. marriage. But you see, sister, a girlfriend and boyfriend relationship does not last. I've hardly heard of any cases where people have been in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship and they've, alhamdulillah, got married. You hardly hear of those cases. Why? Because you see, those relationships are not done for the sake of Allah. They're done for other reasons. Those relationships are done for people's desires, people's urges, just to fulfill your urges, just to have a girl there that you can engage in sexual intercourse with. Very frankly, this is how men think. A man will only want to get married when he feels that he wants to have that girl there that he wants to love for the rest of his life. And the fact that your ex-boyfriend did not propose to you, the fact that he's not thinking about you right now the way you're thinking about him, shows that he didn't really love you. You see, love is a big word, and attraction and fulfilling your urges is a different thing than love. You see, when you fulfill your urges, fine. When you're attracted to someone, you're attracted to someone. Men get attracted to, subhanAllah, 500 women a day probably. But when you love a woman, that's when you'll do anything for her. That's when you take into account that she's going to get pregnant, she's going to get fat. That's when you take account that her looks are going to go and she's going to get ugly one day. In terms of looks. But a man takes that into account and thinks, no, I love this woman, I love her character, I love everything about her, I'm going to go and propose to her. But you see, if that doesn't happen, or even if he says that I want to propose to you, but he never does it, it shows that he's not ready to take you seriously. Now, why am I going so detailed into this whole relationship stance? Because, my sister, you have to understand that if you completely understand the status of boyfriend-girlfriend relationships and the way men think in these relationships, you will in no way feel an empty space in your heart for your ex-boyfriend. It won't be there. Because the fact of the matter is that he does not have that empty space in his heart for you. What's the proof of that? The proof of that is that I'm not getting an email from him about you. The proof of that is that he probably hasn't contacted you after you broke up with him, unless he was very, very desperate to fulfill his urges, which some men are. But he hasn't got back in touch with you for, to make everything halal. Now, here's the thing. If he didn't really love you, which he didn't, let's get that right, he didn't. Because you see, a boy or a man will not go into a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship if he loves the girl. Because you see, that leaves a slight chance. That leaves a slight chance that she can go her way, he can go her way. He won't let that happen. You see, me, I would never do that. I would say to her, look, I love you. I'm proposing to you right now. I'm getting married. Where's your dad? I'm going to go and see your dad. Like, seriously, I want to sit down with him, speak to him, and I want to say, look, let's sort something out. Even if we get engaged, I'm fine. Let's get engaged. You see, that's how men think. If men really love a person, they want to spend the rest of their life with them. But if men want to fulfill their urges from a person, that's it. Now, the reason why you may be feeling the way you feel towards him is because he probably showed you that affection men show. He probably showed you that love. He probably got you a few gifts, probably took you out a few times. He probably, you probably felt loved by him. But here's the thing. That sort of love he was showing you was not for the sake of Allah. It was for the sake of something else. Now, you can probably judge better than me what that was for. Whether that was for his desires, his urges, just to have a buzz, whatever that was for, you can judge. But it wasn't for the sake of Allah. Because a person won't do something haram for the sake of Allah. So, there was no barakah at all in that relationship. I'm sure you'll agree with me. So, because there was no barakah at all in that relationship, what you have to understand is that your heart does not have space for a haram relationship. Because there's no barakah in them. because he doesn't feel the same way you feel about him. You see, in a relationship in general, the wife will always love the husband more than the husband loves her. It may sound a bit weird, but women are generally more emotional than men. They're generally more emotional. So that's why women will cry, women will laugh more, women will, love more. They'll feel that affection much more than men will. So what you have to understand, my sister, is that love wasn't for the sake of Allah. That's why it never worked. And your heart should not have that empty space in it for him. Because you should actually hate him for what he caused you to do. He caused you to commit zina. Zina is one of the worst things that anyone can commit. It's a major sin. You should not even feel an emptiness towards him now. So, what I would say is build up your relationship with Allah and make an effort to love someone for the sake of Allah. If you go back to another boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, the same things are going to end up happening. Albert Einstein, he actually said something that's really, really powerful. He mentioned that insanity is doing exactly the same things over and over again and expecting different results. So when you continue to be in haram relationships and they never work out, and the guy will always move on. Bear this in mind, any sisters watching, the guy will always move on. Guys can easily move on, girls can't. Girls cannot. I've personally seen sisters who've actually been married to brothers, and they've been talking about these brothers for so long. You start to think, wow, sister, he's married now, he's got kids, you're still single, thinking about him. He's not thinking about you. Your ex-boyfriend is not thinking about you right now. So why does he deserve you to be thinking about him? He doesn't deserve that. He caused you to commit one of the worst sins that you can commit. And you're saying you have an empty slot in your heart for him? You feel like that? I'm sure after watching this video you won't feel like that. Because you have to realize that he played you. He didn't want to marry you. Because if he wanted to marry you, you would probably be married to him right now. Everyone says, I'll marry you one day. Everyone will say that to you. But it takes a real man to approach your father and say, I love this girl, I want to marry her. So, I'm sure the point has been made clear. Here's the course of action. As I mentioned, here's the thing. You have to make an effort to get married, inshallah. And you have to have that love for the sake of Allah. Because if your love is not there for the sake of Allah, and is there for the sake of your desires, your urges, just to even get that feeling that you've got someone there, if it's just for that, then you'll have that, but then there won't really be barakah in your marriage. So you have to look at everything for the sake of Allah. You see, when a man says to another man, I love you for the sake of Allah, or obviously when a brother says it to his other brother, that's what I mean. When he says, I love you for the sake of Allah, that means I love you regardless of whatever you say to me, because I love you for the one who created us, his sake. So even if you swear at me, my brother, I'll still love you. So in the same way, when you get married and you're in a relationship with your husband, you'll be thinking, I did not marry him because I wanted to get this off of him. I married him for the sake of Allah. So my love for him is reliant upon Allah. I'm saying that whatever your husband does, for example, even if you have an argument with him, you love him for the sake of Allah. So that argument won't affect your marriage to the extent where you'll be like, oh, forget it. And this is something that a lot of couples may even forget, to love each other for the sake of Allah. So my sister, I think the course is very, very clear. And the main aim that I wanted to get out of this video is to clear this all up in your mind. I wanted to clear all of this in your mind so that you don't even want to have that empty slot in your heart for him. Because he didn't want to get married to you. And essentially, he wasn't ready to marry you. And he caused you to commit one of the biggest sins that you can commit. And that's pretty much it. Jazakallah khair for watching. Inshallah everyone benefited from watching this video. If you do have any, questions or any problems that you'd like to get advice on, you know where the email is. Inshallah, it's in the description box below. As I said before, Jazakallah khair for watching. Assalamu alaikum.